Hello and welcome to another Warhammer 40,000 Faction Focus. I am joined by emissary of the Hive Mind, Adam Camilleri, and today we are talking about Tiránidos. So, Adam, thanks for joining us.
My great pleasure to be here for the Hive Mind itself. We have three amazing detachments to unpack for your viewing pleasure.
Before we dive into that, what can we expect from Tiránidos in the new edition of Warhammer 40,000? What challenges are they going to find?
So for the longest time, Tiránidos have kind of had it all. They have, all the identities have been quite fleshed out model-wise, and then through the different editions of the game that we've played, different things have come to the fore. Whereas we've had editions where, you know, all the small bugs and the hordes were really powering along, scoring all the points, you know, cordoning off your opponent, making sure they can't move and do things like that. It's been quite strong by various times in the previous edition and others. What I'm really excited to see here is the medium bug support we're getting from these detachments, where you would say the 3 wound to 5 wound bandwidth of those medium-sized bugs, your warriors, your raveners, things like that. Of course, the hyper-adapting raveners being extremely strong in the game at the moment as well are going to continue their winning ways. But this is going to bring some really interesting things to the fore for the Tiránidos, in that I think a lot of the identities that people haven't been able to really flesh out are getting some real golden treatment in this, well, especially the last attachment. You guys wait for the last attachment.
I think a flawless segue into our detachments then. So let's have a look at the first one, which is the Warrior Bioform Onslaught. This is very much a detachment designed around the medium bugs, as you say, the warriors. What does it do for them?
Straight up just gives the warriors battle line and a 5-up invulnerable save.
So you can take 6 units of them in 2,000 points, and all of those units have a 5-up invuln.
And that is, of course, melee and ranged bioform weapons. So you pick your poison, you can take 6 of each if you wanted, and take 12 units of warriors. So you could go minimum size and just take the smallest size, or go for the absolute maximum size and make some really beefy units. But either way, they're all going to be battle line, and they're all going to get a 5 invulnerable save, which I think they will absolutely love to have.
Yeah. Particularly useful as well because their armor save isn't maybe as good as some other things that have a 3-up. 3 wounds. So that invulnerable save is very useful for them.
Yeah, definitely in the edition of the game we're just leaving, moving into a brand new world for everybody. That armor save of the Tyranid warrior was definitely a talking point out in the community. Was it good enough? Did it need to be stronger, etc., etc.? We'll just take that question, put it to the side, and give them an invuln. And I think that is absolutely a brilliant way of solving what could have been a problem. But moving on from there, firstly, enhancements.
Yeah, so the enhancements, you've got a few options. One of them allows the Tyranid primes, which are going to be leading those units, to become even more deadly. Yeah,
fantastic new miniature as well, getting the silver treatment in this detachment, that Tyranid prime with the lash whip. This is going to give either a winged prime or a Tyranid prime rerolls to win and +1 AP in combat. That is massive for taking that model, which can and cannot struggle at times with 2+ saves or higher toughness, into just kind of good for everything. Doesn't matter what it charges, this Tyranid Prime is good.
Just a little warrior blender in the middle of your already very durable warrior squads.
Well, exactly right. It's going to get even more durable when we talk about the stratagem as well.
Yeah, so let's jump to the stratagem. So this is alien physiology, and we know that your Tyranid warriors are already going to be more durable because of that 5-up invulnerable save. This is going to make them even harder to kill.
Yeah, one command point to just simply say in your opponent's shooting phase or the fight phase, you are -1 to wound if strength is higher than toughness. And I think this is everything that Tyranid warriors needed to come back into the game into a big way. And the fact that you could take this with an existing detachment already, one of the well-supported existing codex detachments that are blending into the new edition of the game, this is just going to get some more goodness. You're already going to be able to take a detachment that already robustly supports warriors, but maybe didn't do enough for your liking, and just be like, but what if? But what if we just slapped a little bit of extra rule on the side, a little bit more? And I think this is fantastically designed. I think it's really good.
Great. Moving on to a slightly more sneaky detachment.
Yes.
This is Ambush Predators, and this is very much about the vanguard organisms of the Tiránids. This is your Lictors, your Neurolictors, and your Death Leapers. What kind of things does this bring to them?
So the versions we just mentioned there by Lovely Eddie, so Death Leaper, Lictor, and Neurolictors are going to have Deep Strike, which is an ability that they've kind of never had. And with the changes to, Ingress is now a catch-all term for anything that's arriving from reserve, colloquially. In addition to that, Lictors and neurolictors that target a character unit will have reroll 1s to hit.
And that's quite useful because a lot of those attacks have already got precision, haven't they?
Correct.
So they're already pretty good at picking out enemy heroes and psychers and things like that and killing them. This makes them even better at the job you want them to do.
So there is an amazing play in the game at the moment because some of these Lictor-like bioforms come with fights first. Now, in the edition of the game that we're leaving, one of the great things that Tyranid players were able to leverage was a heroic intervening unit that fights first as a deterrent to your opponent being aggressive or trying to push you off a position of replacement. This giving them ingress, giving them deep strike, giving them the ability to ride from reserve and that tactical flexibility kind of unlocks an even bigger play pattern available to those models and to those interactions for the savvy Tyranid player. So I think this is pretty exciting.
So, I mean, in some ways, the power of fights first has been diminished a little bit.
Yep.
This detachment puts a whole bunch of new tools onto those units that you may have gone, oh, maybe I'll move away from those, but you've still got lots of tools to play with.
Agreed. I do believe the tales of fights versus demise have been very much overstated.
Well, we will see.
It's still an incredible ability to have. And so, I think this is amazing. In addition to the lone operative ability on these models, when you have the ability to deep strike them onto the battlefield with perfect positioning so they can't really be shot if you don't want them to be, I just think it's a very exciting thing to have. It adds a huge amount of dynamics as well to things that are already very exciting models.
So let's have a look at some of the enhancements and the stratagems. So let's start off with the enhancement Encircling Horrors. This is a thing that you can give to units. You can give it to Neurolictors, Lictors, and Von Ryan's Leapers, and it brings a very useful strategic trick to the battle.
The term reactive move is what we're going to get here. This is when an enemy unit ends a move within 8 inches of your unit, you will get to make a normal move of D3 plus 3. And I got to tell you, that is the second best reactive move in the game. Of course, flat 6, very powerful, very hard to come by. If you have one, take it. But D3 plus 3 reactive move on an entire unit that doesn't need to have a character necessarily inside of it, this is big.
And it's particularly useful as well because you've got that lone operative ability. So they're already quite hard to pin down, right? You have to catch them, you have to fight them, you have to shoot them. If you're trying to move units forward to catch them in your arc of fire, they can then just move out back into lone operative territory potentially.
You nailed it, mate. That is absolutely spot on. Of course, you could do this on Von Ryan's Leapers as well if you wanted a movable, malleable screen out in front of your army that's also going to eat your opponent's screening units as well and their utility units, while also staying ahead of the opponent with the reactive move. Or, like you said, you can chuck it on a Neurolictor, Lictor, and just keep it one step ahead of your opponent. Just such a frustrating yet nuanced to use piece on the table.
Yeah. And then last up, let's have a look at one of their stratagems. This is Counter Predation. And this is an interesting stratagem that interacts with the new hidden rules, but not in a way that maybe you were expecting.
Yes, not in the way that you would make sense. When people talk about hidden, or we're starting to unpack all the nuances of the hidden mechanic, you automatically just assume shooting phase. This is in the fight phase, and when you fight a unit that is hidden, you will get +1 strength and AP for 1 command point.
So that unit that your opponent thought was the safest it can be, can't be targeted, nice and tucked away in a piece of cover, safe as houses. All of a sudden, there's an enormous Tyranid predator crawling out of the woodwork to try and eat you.
Lictor looms up behind you, +1 strength, +1 AP, see you later, get off the table.
Yeah, it's a really fun little thematic rule. I like that.
It works really well, and it's a very powerful ability. Also, one of the things that people have come back to quite a bit is Von Ryan's Leapers have been, was a very powerful piece at the start of this edition. But then when things started ramping up armor save wise, it found that their AP1 on their weapons didn't quite cut it into all versions and all enemies they were attacking. +1 strength of AP, I think, is everything they need.
Well, you can make quite a big unit of those as well, can't you?
Absolutely
And they get a lot of attacks when they start swinging.
They throw a bucket of attacks. They throw a Goth Orc Boy's dream worth of attacks at times. And so I think this is a fantastic detachment.
Excellent. Well, we're going to move on to your favourite of the detachments. I think this is Talons of the Norn Queen, and this boosts what is one of the most formidable models in the Tyranid army.
I gotta tell you, if you remember the Distraction Carnifex, can I sell you on the Distraction Norn? The Norn of your flavor as well, be it the Assimilator or the Emissary. Both of them are absolute superstars in this detachment. What you will get is the ability to reactivate your primary ability, which is the choosing of either an objective that you're going to have extra objective controlled on or extra durability, or unit in your opponent's army that you are just going to hit that much harder, and you're going to be able to do that twice in a game instead of just once. So what was big for the assimilator is that a lot of the time you would pick one of your opponent's early play pieces, or you would pick a thing that the assimilator was just going to be very good into by default, and if your opponent got it killed early, or if it died turn 1 or turn 2, your assimilator is just sitting there with no abilities. And its premium ability has been expended, almost like it was a one-use only.
It's already done the thing, right?
It's already done the thing. Yeah. What does it do now? Well, now it's gotten more purpose. And in addition to the Norn, I think is really key here, the emissary, because of course people want to get their emissary onto its chosen objective as soon as possible. But what if the game state progresses? What if you don't want to sit on that expansion objective, the one just outside your deployment zone, the safest one, and you want to project deeper into the battlefield while still having the maximum amount of efficiency? I think it's huge.
So you can jump on, remove an enemy unit that you targeted, and then go, right, there's no enemies around, I'm going to hold that objective. Or alternatively, you can push forward, take the objective, you've cleared out the enemy from that space, but a juicy target appears, you can switch and go, actually, that's the new target.
Exactly right. Or the perfect example for the assimilator, the example for the Norn is, I'm going to walk onto my closest, safest objective. But I don't want my Norn, my massive, imposing piece, to be on the safest objective.
Well, you spent 200 points to just stand around, right?
Yeah,
you want to get killing stuff.
And because it's got enhanced durability, I want it to become my opponent's problem, and I want them to have to try and solve it, because that'll be to my advantage. And so then you project that threat deeper into the opponent's board, and I think it's a fantastic ability.
Right, well, they only get scarier because they've also got a series of enhancements and stratagems. So let's look at one of the enhancements first. This is destabilizing predation. Can be used on a Norn emissary. Makes it even better at killing selected enemies.
Anti-character 2+. In the shooting phase. So range attacks will have anti-character 2+. And of course, the Norn is the better at the shooting one, the simulators are better at the melee version, but anti-character 2+ is terrifying on such a massive, massive Gribbly. I really think this is going to be exceptional.
So that makes it very good at killing things like Space Marine units with characters attached, or things like the larger Imperial Knights.
Correct. The Imperial Knights was the first one that came to my mind as well. Of course, every Questoris chassis comes with the character keyword. Or the Greater Demons, for example. There are so many large, terrifying models that do want to try and go toe-to-toe with something like a Norn Emissary that is just, now I'm going to reach on 2s. Yeah. And it's before you get to punch him as well, because I'm going to do it in the shooting phase.
And he's no slouch in combat either.
No, absolutely not.
So let's have a look at one of the stratagems. This is catalytic biofortification.
As one command point, and is just going to simply give your Norn assimilators only, will get a Feel No Pain 4+ against mortal wounds, which is fantastic to have, because of course not having the chosen objective and getting the Feel No Pain activation as easily as the Norn, and being quite different in purpose. When you took in a assimilator, people were like, well, I'm going to hit it with explosives, which is the word we're going to be using now for the grenade strategy you'd know and love. Things like tank shock. You have a big, imposing monster, and the best way your opponent can take care of it is over 2 or 3 turns, chip it away with mortal wound equivalent. So this is just going to say 1 CP, no. You're going to have to deal with me another way.
Excellent. Well, Adam, thanks so much for your thoughts and insight. We will be back very soon with another Warhammer 40,000 Faction Focus.